Welcome to Amplify, the podcast for accounting marketers. I'm your host, Mike Jones, CEO and Managing Partner of Resound, a brand consultancy for B2B professional services. And today I'm super excited to dive into the changing compensation landscape and really just the landscape of HR and marketing and all this great stuff that we're talking through on this season of Amplify. And we have a fantastic guest. This is Jon Hubbard. He's a shareholder at Boomer Consulting. Jon helps accounting firms leaders find success in areas of leadership, talent, and growth so that they can grow their firms and be more effective in the areas of client service, marketing, and business development. He's an accomplished consultant and speaker. And last year, this was really awesome, he was recognized as a top 20 under 40 influencer by CPA Practice Advisor. That's awesome. Congratulations, Jon. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you work with a lot of leaders within accounting firms, not least CMOs and marketing leaders and HR, which I think puts you in a really unique place to have this conversation around kind of the intersection of marketing and HR and what's going on in accounting firms and with accounting firms as they look to recruit and retain great talent. What are some of the things that you're hearing as you meet with and you work with these CMOs and HR leaders?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Mike, you and I were chatting before we clicked record on this, and I was sharing with you, I get the privilege of facilitating various peer groups across our profession, two of which is our marketing circle and our talent circle. So our marketing circle is for larger firms, mostly in the top 100, the CMOs, the marketing directors, the marketing leaders there. And then sometimes, actually, in the other room, I have a group of HR leaders, top 100 firms, larger firms. And what's interesting is I get to see kind of the trends of the topics that are being discussed in both groups. And you're spot on, Mike, because one topic that is being discussed on both sides of that coin is all about firm branding, employee retention, recruiting, and how marketing and HR can work together to put the firm in a position of strength with current and future employees.
That's really cool. What are some of the maybe challenges that you're hearing that are coming up as they look to kind of connect the dots between those areas and really start to attract really great talent and keep them?
Yeah, so it's a hyper-competitive landscape out there, as we know, right? In some ways, that's a little surprising to people because more firms than ever are open to hiring employees from anywhere in the US, right? As long as you have an internet connection and we send you a computer and you have the right skill set, we don't care where you work. So in some ways, that really opens the market up. But in other ways, that creates more competition than ever because you don't have those geographic constraints or geographic barriers that sometimes were working in your favor, especially for people that wanted to stay in their current city or in their current spot. And so how do firms position themselves and become an employer of choice to those outside their region, their traditional region of influence? So why would someone in California want to work for a firm in Nebraska? Okay. Or vice versa.
I can see some questions coming up when they see that job posting.
I mean, absolutely. It's like, why would someone want to do that? And for a lot of the time spent, marketers are now collaborating with HR leaders to say, how do we make ourselves positioned as an attractive firm, an employer of choice? Someone in another state hasn't been seeing your brand for the last 10 years at local universities, and online and things of that sort. So how do we catch the attention of that top talent that is scattered throughout the US?
Yeah, that's really good. So how can they? What are some ways that they can start to position themselves to be that attractive place? Obviously not physically, but as a group, as a team, a culture that people really want to be a part of.
Yeah. And for, a lot of firms, what I'm getting ready to say is going to be somewhat new, I think. And maybe firms are doing it already, but it's still, for the most part, in its infancy. So, one of my recommendations is to view your recruiting strategy as one of your most important marketing campaigns out there. So if you had a marketing campaign that traditionally maybe would be focused on a service or a niche or an industry, and you had a all hands on deck approach to that campaign, getting it set up, identifying the right targets, clarifying that messaging, getting the branding elements in place, apply that same approach to your recruiting strategy. And so one of the key ways, and we see this happening more and more now, where we're seeing this true intersection between marketing and HR. Just a couple years ago, I actually coached a few dozen firms through clarifying their messaging on job openings they had that were actually difficult to find qualified staff for. This was that kind of 5 to 7 year, experienced staff, which we all want more of.
Yep.
Actually coaching a few dozen firms through clarifying that messaging to then ultimately rewrite their job descriptions that they're posting, their job opening, descriptions. And it completely evolved and completely changed what those job descriptions sounded like. And so we have to win in the marketplace, going after the top talent. And often we have the tools, we have the skill sets. It's just applying them in a new way.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a bit of an inversion that's required, thinking, I think maybe the old school thinking was like, talent will come to us, right? We just have to put the job posting out and it'll just happen. And the reality of the world and the industry and just kind of how the talent workforce is happening right now is it's more of, you got to draw them in. And you have to actually be a little bit more proactive. So if you approach it with, like you're saying, this kind of marketing campaign type approach, then you're more likely to actually find the talent that you really want, rather than relying on them to just kind of discover you happenstance wise. Right. And I think, like in the last episode, I was talking with Jeff from Accounting Fly. He made this really good point about, if you're able to hire remotely, everyone's an opportunity, right? And I think you're connecting the dot there of, yes, that's true, but also that means that they're now competing, or they're hearing competing messaging from a whole host more firms than they were before. It's not just those in their local geographic area. So I like that a lot. I'm starting to tie these dots together, and I love it. Approach HR, approach recruitment like a marketing campaign. That's my big takeaway. I love it.
Absolutely. I was just chatting earlier today with some marketing leaders of, larger firms, and they are thinking about, we have to go beyond the local universities we've always gone to. We can't find enough staff. So how do we create the right profile? So when we're talking with firms in just a traditional marketing sense, one of the things we're talking about is, who's your target client? So for each role that you're looking for, who is your target audience? Okay. And where is that audience? Guess what? They are in more places than just the 3 or 4 universities in your city or in your state in which you're recruiting. Okay. So who are those kind of target clients, target employees, right? And where are they? Those are your channels, right? Where do they work? Where do they visit? Where do they frequent? What are they a part of? And what messaging is most important to them? Okay. And it's that messaging we have to focus on. Now, Mike, I know you help firms and organizations with their messaging. So what I'm getting ready to say won't be a surprise in any event. But guess what? The messaging should be about them, about those you're trying to recruit, not about yourself. And too often firms are trying to put themselves and talk about themselves and say, look how great we are, when in reality, they should be talking about, look how great you are and how you can be successful in this organization. And, people will leave firms. People will leave their current employee to go to something that is more attractive, that's more aligned with their values, that's more aligned with their lifestyle. And it's your job as recruiters, whether you're on the marketing side or the HR side, to put the firm in a position that creates that type of interest where someone is willing to leave their current employer for something that's more in line with where they are.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great point of just really solving the problems that your talent is trying to solve, right, in your messaging, rather than just focusing on like, oh, here's who we are, this is what we do, and here's our need. Our need is you need to fill this position. It's like nobody joins because they want to, fill a position. They want to join because they have a career. They want to grow in their career and they want to learn new skills, or they want to reach some new achievement in, pay or in, benefits or something else like that. Or even just, hey, I want a job that's more flexible, right? I have personal values that align with a more flexible job. And so it's like, hey, how can you line up all those things that you're going to provide for them to meet their goals and their, really achieve the things they want to achieve in their life as much as you can, right? You're not promising them the world, but
yeah. Well, and you said it well. How do you solve their problems? And so in a traditional marketing sense, it's all about solving clients' problems, and problems are the hook. The more you talk about your clients' problems, the more interested they become in your services. Well, the same exact thing holds true. As the more you talk about the problems of those that you're trying to recruit, the more attractive your firm becomes to them. So here's an example of that. Too many firms are losing great people because those great people want to go part-time, or they want to have a real flexible work arrangement in this season of life. I talked to many firms who have gotten amazing staff because the firm they were at would not accommodate that aspect of their life. And so think about it. When I was sharing with you the fact that I walked a few dozen firms through crafting their messaging for those hard to hire positions, that was a big part of it. Is most people that they were targeting had young kids. They were most likely female. They were in a life stage where they needed flexibility. They may even only want to work 20 hours or 10 hours or 30 hours, whatever that is. And their focus was around radical flexibility, and however many hours you want to work, we will work with you to craft something that works for your lifestyle. And so too often firms don't want to manage to that. They want to say, here's the box that you have to fit in, and we want you to come work for us because that's the way it's always been. Why would we let someone, someone with young kids have a flexible work environment for the next 2 years because they only want to work 20 hours a week? And it's like, well, if you don't, someone else is going to snatch them up and provide an amazing experience. So we want to be that. We want to be that choice, for them. And there's other examples too. I was just working with a firm who said, well, we have a lot of young interns or younger staff that we want to have roles for. Maybe we can hire half of them, but should we cut back on the amount of young staff we're hiring, or maybe interns, because we're only going to end up hiring half of them for the long term. And through a series of conversations and things of that sort, they ultimately landed saying, actually, we want to be known as the firm that you come and intern for us, and we're going to prepare you to send you out into the world.
Yeah.
To send you, to make you one of the most hireable candidates in the marketplace. And we're going to put together a plan while you're here that's all about growing you, building you, things of that sort. And they know they're not going to keep everyone. And some of them they will.
Yep.
Others they're going to send out more qualified into the marketplace, but they want everyone in all the schools they're talking to, through various states. They want to be known as the firm. That's where you go to learn a lot and to be extremely attractive in the marketplace when it comes time to leave that firm.
Yeah. And that probably will have long-term huge benefits for them, right? You just talk about, if you work on these partnerships with schools and down the road, they're like, we know which firm we want to send our students to because we know that they're going to get that kind of work experience in the workplace, internship type program that's really going to set them up for huge success. And I don't know any university that wouldn't want to partner on that, right? Because that's gonna reap dividends for them as well, right? They're the university that sends their students to these great internships that then prepare them for that next phase. And who knows, maybe some of those interns they go on work for somebody else, and they might come back, right? Because they had a great internship experience and they felt like, man, you delivered a ton of value to me while I was here. Hopefully, the designer side of me, my design background is like, I hope that experience continuum is all the way through every role in the firm, not just at the intern level, right? Where everyone's being built up and developed. But I think that's a great place to start. That's a really interesting kind of story of using, what seems like kind of a bad deal. Like, man, are we just training up a bunch of people for our competitors, for other firms? Yeah, I guess that's one way to look at it. But you're providing value, and I think you will come back and reap that reward if you do it that way. So that's great. What are you seeing kind of from like the attraction standpoint? Like what's working? What's like really getting candidates excited about coming to firms? Obviously, flexibility. I mean, that's probably the big one.
That's one of the top things is that radical flexibility. We hear that talked about a lot. And, the talent that you're recruiting and trying to attract, your competition is not just other accounting firms, right?
No,
it is lots of other
really
organizations in industries that arguably are more progressive than we are in their sense of, hey, you can work from anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so knowing that's where, that's the market in which you're competing. Radical flexibility is becoming table stakes. That's becoming a basic expectation. Yeah. I just saw an article that the employees that work for Google Maps, right? Google, the division of their maps, can no longer afford, due to gas prices, to drive into the office. How ironic is that, right?
It's super ironic.
What in the world? And, whether that is fully true or not, that really doesn't even matter. It's just the point of saying it's becoming less appealing to the top talent out there, to the talent that has options, to physically drive into the office every day as a mandatory expectation, especially in the larger metro areas where it's becoming more costly, it's becoming more of a hassle. And, when they're interacting with their peers and none of their peers work in an office, all of a sudden they're thinking, why am I working in an office? I should be, out there seeing what's available. So radical flexibility is huge. And that includes not just where they work from, but it also includes when they work, and what I'm saying now is nothing new in the sense that, people want to work, especially high-performing individuals. They want to work with other high-performing individuals, and they don't want to be managed like cattle, saying that you have to, in order for quality work to get done, it has to happen between these hours, because guess what? During those hours, their kids need to be picked up from school. Their kids need to go to the dentist. They need to go to they need to run some errands. They want to attend, events, things of that sort. And so a lot of this is on really talking about some of those benefits that your firm has and making those benefits known. I kind of compare the strategy firms should be implementing around the promotion of some of their benefits as I do about kind of car manufacturers and how they promote their vehicles. The next time you see a Ford commercial or a Chevy commercial or whatever, what do they always do? They focus in on one specific attribute. Hey, our tailgate has a step now, and the whole commercial
is built around that one attribute.
That one attribute. Now, why do they do that? Because if they promote that well and help their potential consumers understand that there's that feature, that benefit, they're going to imply that, because Ford put that thought into their tailgate, they have surely put just as much thought into the rest of the truck. Okay. Yep. And so one piece of advice I have for firms is, what are some of your more compelling benefits that you're able to talk about? Radical flexibility, health related benefits, physical or mental. And the way in which you talk about those are not about your firm and how great your firm is, but how those that you're targeting, they should expect these things from their employer. And yes, you're the ones doing that. You're the ones offering that. So now all of a sudden they start having an expectation for their current employer. We should be having this benefit, but we don't. But I see this firm over here is talking about it all the time. That's when people start to become more interested in what your firm offers. Yeah. And so those are just some ideas that come to mind.
Yeah. It's so interesting. These like crossovers from kind of methodology that I think we all know from marketing, right? Focusing on a single attribute, really laddering that up into like what the benefit is for that person and how it helps them meet their own core values. And yet we kind of just drop them when we get into HR and we start working on recruitment strategies and we start working on retention. And it's like, these are all the same things, right? Caring well for the individual that we're talking to and saying, how can we deliver value to them and really make their lives better in a way that they want, right? I think that's the real key, is kind of linking those two. But yeah, it's so interesting. I love that kind of intersection that marketing and HR are starting to really have, and how firms can think about that. So that's cool.
With our talent circle, our HR group, something that, has come up, pretty consistently is the talent leaders in your firm, the HR leaders in your firms. They have really, really good ideas, and they are often finding themselves the ones attempting to convince and sell their firm, other decision makers in their firm, on these benefits. So it's not about HR leaders just not knowing how to promote or just not knowing how to talk about things. They absolutely can. They are often selling people internally first on, hey, here's what other firms are doing that we should be doing. And honestly, that is one of the more effective approaches we've seen, that if you are an HR leader out there, a talent leader out there, and you can talk to the rest of firm leadership about what some of your peer firms are doing and that you're behind, now they start paying attention. Now they become more interested in saying, you know what, let's explore offering that type of flexibility, or let's try it out since so-and-so firm is doing it. And in some ways you might be thinking, well, couldn't we come to that, to that conclusion without having to throw in another firm name? But honestly, it's helpful.
Yep.
Most firms don't want to be the trailblazer in any of these areas. At least the vast majority don't.
Yep.
They want to know, is that working somewhere else? And if so, let's adopt it. So if you are a marketing leader out there or a talent leader out there, you need to be plugged into some of these networks, some of these groups, so you can have that type of information to take back to your firm.
Yeah, that's really good. I love that. Finding examples, other firms doing it. I think it's something we all know, and it's easy to forget. Definitely easy to forget. Beyond like flexibility, are there other benefits that you're seeing, kind of new approaches or different ways of thinking about how to both attract but also retain talent? Because part of that is, that's how you also keep people too.
Yeah. So, a lot of the traditional benefits that firms have offered are really just more of standard expectations now. So the 401k, the life insurance, vacation days, health insurance, things like that. It's great. Not to minimize that.
Yep.
Those are great. But will that turn heads? Will that get people to click on something? Will that get people to check out your job posting? Will that get students interested in your firm? And in most cases, it doesn't. Okay. So what is benefits that are maybe categorized around lifestyle? How can you improve the lifestyle, the quality of life with those that you're looking to retain or attract? So things like, in addition to flexibility, responsible time off, as we call it, or some organizations say unlimited time off. Now we know there's nuances to that. We know there's things of that sort, but the idea or the messaging of, hey, we hire really high performing people, and with that, you get really amazing benefits that improve your quality of life. So taking time off, more than 2 weeks, more than just a structured amount, is being categorized as responsible time off. Okay. Things like sabbaticals for not just your partner group, but for your firm. The idea that at some point an employee of your firm could take a month off, for example, go do something amazing with their family. That is something that they'll never forget. That is something that creates a lot of stickiness in terms of anticipation for that and loyalty to the firm around that. So we see more and more firms starting to explore that sabbatical type program of some form. Okay. Employee wellness. You can't even turn a corner today without hearing about wellness. And the reason we're hearing a lot about it is because it's desperately needed. And it's not just physical wellness, it's mental wellness as well. So we know of firms that are really, really investing in cool ways to improve the quality of life for their employees. Things like, hey, we bring in a therapist, a counselor once a week, and you can schedule appointments and have conversations with that therapist or counselor. And it's absolutely no charge to you. We pay the fee. Does every employee use it? No. Do the vast majority of employees appreciate that their firm is doing that and is proud that their firm is doing that? Absolutely. And so things like, what would make our employees proud if we offered this type of benefit? And the more you can answer that question, the better. Some other more kind of creative things, reimbursement for daycare. We even know one firm who during tax season, they turned a section of their physical office space into a childcare facility. Now, there's a lot of questions that go into that. There's a lot of planning, and there's a whole session we could do on that. But the reality is, their employees wanted to work the weekends to stay on top of their work, but they didn't have the ability to figure out what to do with their children, right? And so there was this. That's something that happened last year, and we had never really heard that before. things for, I'm talking about lifestyle here, but thinking about your employees and their various life stages and what type of benefits are most appealing to them in their life stage. Well, parental care is coming up, extra time off, extra resources around taking care of your parents. That might not be something your younger generation is thinking about, but your older generation employees are. And that's a huge thing. And even pet insurance is something we're hearing about. We kind of laugh, but
true.
Offering pet insurance for your employees, that's a whole campaign right there. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that or you should do that, but think about the feeling a recruit has, or the feeling that a current employee has when your firm is offering, or at least attempting to offer, some of these benefits. It feels like a place that cares about their employees and that is investing in their employees, and they want to be loyal to that. They want to stay in an organization like that, because even today it's not that common.
All right. So I've got a firm, let's say, and we're approaching all of these options, right? How do we even start to start thinking about this? So we've got to make some changes. We know that, hey, we're ready to do something, but what are we going to do first? What's kind of a plan of attack?
Yeah. So kind of starting at the top of the funnel in terms of that answer, right? We really advise here at Boomer Consulting that firms have a strategic plan. A strategic plan is focused on key initiatives in all areas of your firm. It is focused on anywhere between 1, 3, 5 years, depending on kind of exactly what you need. But you need to know where your firm is going. You need to know this is the direction we are taking our firm. This is where we want to be. And your HR talent strategies should help you get there. Okay. If your HR talent strategies, you can do all these cool things with just the focus on kind of retaining employees. And while that is certainly a hot topic right now, and every firm is trying to retain their best and brightest, it still needs to be in line with your firm's vision and strategic plan. And, honestly, by doing that, Mike, by firms setting their vision or strategic plan, oftentimes they realize, we don't need to recruit just in our geographic area, because actually we're trying to win clients all over the country in this specific niche. Why then do we require all of our staff to be within this geographic area? So conversations like that come up when you get into your vision and planning. That's really helpful to inform HR leaders and marketing leaders. And I would submit to you, if you're a firm thinking about developing a strategic plan and you have marketing leaders and HR leaders in your firm, please have them be a part of that process. They have great big ideas. They're plugged into other firms. They know what's happening outside the profession, and that needs to be factored in to how you shape your plan. So that's where I would start. The second big thing I would say is engage your employees in this process. Engage your employees in the conversations. Now, something that can be challenging for HR leaders today is, each person wants something different. Okay.
Yes. Every individual is an individual.
Every individual is an individual. They want something different. And so instead of shooting in the dark, or instead of trying to take that whack-a-mole approach where you're just like, okay, let's do this week and this next week, and all of a sudden you feel like you're just offering every benefit under the sun, and you're just desperately trying to do anything and everything, what would it look like to survey your team? Have some focus group discussions, right? Understand those different life stages your employees are in, and have conversations around what is meaningful to them. Sometimes, honestly, if HR departments are left alone, or maybe leaders in firms are left alone, we might be tempted to over-engineer a benefit or over-engineer something. And through a few conversations, we realize, this is what our employees really care about.
Yeah.
And I was totally going to over engineer that situation or totally over engineer that benefit.
Yep.
And sometimes it's just having those conversations with them and then putting options and packages of benefits together. And, most employees understand as you talk with them, you can't do everything all at once. Okay. Yep. And there's some things you'll never be able to offer or never should offer from a business perspective. But employees want to be heard. They want to be asked what is of value to them, what they appreciate. They want to share their opinion more than anything. And so engaging them in that process is key.
I think those are really good places to start. This has been a great conversation, Jon. I so appreciate you coming on. What's coming up for you? Is there anything that our audience can check out that might be of help to them that you've got coming up?
Sure. So if you go to boomer.com, we have all of our services there, all of our events. One that could be uniquely interesting to you is or to our listeners, we have a recruiters workshop coming up on July 11th. And so this, obviously everyone is talking about this topic. We just released registration not too long ago, so people are signing up left and right. But if you are in your firm and you're interested in improving how you recruit, or you have team members that this is a big part of their role, I would encourage you to go to boomer.com/workshops, boomer.com/workshops, and you will see a link to the recruiters workshop, and you can check out the agenda and all the details around that.
That's awesome. We'll make sure we've got a link in the show notes. If people want to find out more about you, Jon, what's the best place to find you, connect with you?
Yeah. So my email address is jon.hubbard@boomer.com. Jon is spelled Jon. So jon.hubbard, HUBBARD @boomer.com. You can send me an email. I'll be happy to chat. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. Type in Jon Hubbard and I should pop up there.
That's awesome. We'll make sure those are in the show notes as well, so people can get connected with you, Jon. Thank you again so much for coming on. And I want to thank all of our listeners for listening to another episode of Amplify, the podcast for accounting marketers. Thank you so much for listening in today. If you liked this episode, would you please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to this podcast? We'd really appreciate it. That helps us kind of stay front of mind for people that are interested in our podcast. And if you want to find out more about Amplify, any of our back episodes, head over to accountingmarketing.org and you'll find the podcast under the menu publications. If you want to find out more about me and my brand consultancy, Resound, head over to resoundcreative.com or just send me an email, mike@resoundcreative.com. And until next time.